Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into some pretty interesting advice today about how older men can be more successful dating younger women.
Yeah, it's definitely a topic that gets a lot of attention.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we found a source with some, let's just say, unconventional tips.
Unconventional is a good word for it.
It's an advice piece specifically for older men who want to date younger women. And some of these tips are going to make you think.
Yeah, I mean, it goes against a lot of the traditional dating advice out there.
Exactly. So we're going to break it all down, look at the psychology behind it, and see how it might actually play out in real life. You ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
Okay, so mistake number one, according to this source, is something they call idolizing her. Basically putting younger women on a pedestal like they're these unattainable prizes.
Right, treating them as if they're these perfect beings.
Yeah, and the source argues that this is a huge turnoff.
It makes sense when you think about it. I mean, who wants to feel like they're being worshipped from afar?
I guess it could feel kind of suffocating.
Exactly. It creates this imbalance of power, right? Like you're saying, you're perfect and I'm not worthy.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's almost like setting yourself up for rejection before you even start.
Yeah. And it can make the other person feel uncomfortable, like they're not being seen as a real person.
Okay, that makes sense. But isn't there something to be said for making someone feel special? Like appreciating their beauty or their accomplishments?
Sure, appreciation is important, but there's a fine line between appreciating someone and putting them on a pedestal.
I guess so.
When you cross that line, it becomes less about them and more about your own insecurities.
Interesting. So instead of putting them on a pedestal, what's a healthier approach?
Well, the source suggests something called normalizing interactions, basically treating younger women like regular people.
So just talk to them like you would anyone else.
Exactly. Get to know them as individuals, find common interests, have real conversations.
So maybe avoid showering them with compliments right off the bat and instead focus on building a genuine connection.
Right. The more you engage with them on a human level, the less intimidating they become and the more confident you'll feel.
And that confidence can be really attractive.
Oh, absolutely. Genuine confidence, the kind that comes from being comfortable in your own skin, is magnetic.
Okay, on to mistake number two, mishandling the age question. Apparently, a lot of older men get flustered when a younger woman asks about their age.
It's funny how such a simple question can trigger so much insecurity, isn't it?
It really is. The source says instead of getting defensive or trying to downplay your age, you should own it with confidence.
They even suggest using humor to deflect any awkwardness.
Like what?
Well, they give this example of saying something like, "I'm actually too old for you. We can't possibly be together."
Haha, I can see how that could work. It's like you're acknowledging the age difference in a playful way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not making it a big deal. It's just a fact. And you're comfortable with it.
But why do you think so many men get so hung up on their age in dating situations?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with societal pressures. You know, we live in a culture that often equates youth with attractiveness and value, especially for women.
And for men, there's this pressure to be seen as virile and successful.
Right. And those ideas can get all tangled up with age. So there's this fear of being seen as past your prime.
It's almost like men are expected to defy aging while women are expected to embrace it gracefully.
Yeah, there's definitely a double standard there. And it's important to recognize how those societal messages can impact our self-perception, especially when it comes to dating.
So how can older men combat this societal pressure and feel more confident about their age?
I think it starts with challenging those ingrained beliefs that tell us getting older is something to be ashamed of.
Easier said than done, right?
It takes effort, for sure. But it's about focusing on the positives of aging.
Like what?
Well, think about the wisdom, the experience, the unique qualities that come with age. You've got a lot to offer.
So it's not about trying to be younger. It's about owning who you are at any age.
Exactly. It's a shift in mindset, from one of scarcity to one of abundance.
You know, this is making me think about how I respond to questions about sensitive topics in general. Do I own it, deflect it, or maybe something else entirely? How about you? How do you usually handle those situations?
That's a good question. Let me think for a second. It's interesting how sometimes we can get so caught up in what others think, you know?
Yeah, totally. It's like we're trying to present this perfect image of ourselves all the time.
Right, and that can really backfire, especially in dating, because authenticity is so important.
Absolutely. People can spot a fake from a mile away.
Exactly. So yeah, I think owning your age and your experience is key.
Speaking of authenticity, the source also had some pretty strong opinions about how older men should handle their finances when dating younger women.
Oh yeah, mistake number 3, leading with money.
Right. The source basically warns against using your wealth to try and impress younger women.
They argue that it can attract the wrong kind of attention and create an unbalanced dynamic in the relationship.
Yeah, they use this metaphor of becoming an ATM rather than a romantic partner.
It's a pretty powerful image, right?
Definitely. It highlights the danger of making the relationship all about money.
Exactly.
Yeah,
When you lead with money, you're essentially saying that your worth is tied to your financial status.
which can be a huge turnoff for someone who's looking for a genuine connection.
Right. You can create the sense of insecurity and doubt. Like the other person might start wondering, are they interested in me or just in my potential as a gold digger?
Oof. Yeah, I can see how that would be a problem. But at the same time, I think it's important to acknowledge that financial stability can be attractive.
Of course. It's
Yeah.
not about pretending to be broke or anything.
Right. So how do you strike that balance between being comfortable with your success, but not making it the defining factor of who you are?
Well, the source suggests focusing on shared experiences and personal qualities.
So instead of trying to buy her affection, try connecting with her on a deeper level.
Right. Share your passions. Engage in meaningful conversations. Create memories that go beyond material possessions.
I like that. It's about building a foundation of shared experiences and genuine connection rather than superficial displays of wealth.
Exactly, because those shared experiences are what truly bond people together. They create a sense of intimacy and understanding that can't be bought or manufactured.
Okay, that brings us to mistake number 4, positioning yourself as a mentor. The source argues that older men often fall into this trap of trying to guide and advise younger women, which can actually hinder romantic potential.
It's an interesting point. I mean, think about the dynamic that creates. You're the wise one, the expert, and she's the student who needs your guidance.
Yeah, not exactly a recipe for romantic chemistry.
Right. Instead of fostering a sense of equality and mutual attraction, you're inadvertently reinforcing a power imbalance.
So how do you avoid falling into that mentor role, especially if you genuinely want to help and support her?
I think the key is to establish your romantic interest early on. Don't be afraid to flirt, to be playful, to show her that you see her as more than just a mentee.
But how do you do that without coming across as creepy or inappropriate? There's a fine line there, isn't there?
There is. It's all about reading the signals and respecting her boundaries.
Yeah.
But it's also about being clear about your intentions. Use humor, playful banter, and subtle compliments to let her know that you're interested in her romantically.
Okay, so instead of offering advice, maybe try teasing her playfully or finding opportunities for lighthearted physical contact.
Exactly. And remember, body language is key. Maintaining eye contact, leaning in when you're talking, and using touch appropriately can all communicate attraction in a subtle yet powerful way.
This advice is really making me think about how we communicate our intentions both verbally and non-verbally. It's not always about what we say, but how we say it.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's about what we don't say.
Yeah.
Silence can be just as powerful as words, especially when it comes to flirting and building tension.
You know, it's interesting how this source, while focusing on dating advice, is also touching on some broader themes about communication power dynamics and the complexities of human connection.
It really is. And I think that's what makes it so fascinating.
I'm curious, what are some of the key takeaways that are standing out to you so far?
Well, one thing that keeps coming up is the importance of confidence. The source really emphasizes that confidence is magnetic, especially for older men who are dating younger women.
I agree, but it's not about arrogance or bravado. It's about that quiet confidence that comes from knowing yourself and being comfortable in your own skin.
Exactly. It's about owning your strengths, accepting your flaws, and not feeling the need to prove yourself to anyone.
And that kind of authenticity is what allows you to connect with others on a genuine level. It's about being true to yourself, rather than trying to fit into some preconceived notion of what's attractive or desirable.
I think that's a really powerful message.
Yeah,
And it's something that applies to all relationships, not just romantic ones.
absolutely. Being authentic is essential for building trust, intimacy, and lasting connections.
And it's not just about being true to yourself. It's also about being present and engaged in the moment. The source talks a lot about the importance of creating memorable experiences with your partner, rather than just relying on material possessions.
Yes. They encourage older men to focus on shared adventures and activities that create lasting memories.
Because those shared experiences are what truly bond you with someone. They create stories, inside jokes, and a sense of connection that goes beyond the superficial.
It's about exploring new things together, challenging each other, and creating a tapestry of experiences that you can look back on and cherish.
And those experiences don't have to be grand or expensive. It could be as simple as trying a new restaurant, going for a hike in a nearby park, or even just staying in and cooking a meal together.
It's about the quality of the time you spend together, not the quantity or the cost.
And it's about creating opportunities for laughter, joy, and connection. These are the things that truly nourish a relationship and make it thrive.
You know, this deep dive is reminding me of something I read recently about the 5 love languages. The author argued that everyone has different ways of giving and receiving love, and it's important to understand your partner's love language in order to build a strong and fulfilling relationship.
That's a great point, and it ties in perfectly with what we've been discussing. If someone's love language is quality time, then showering them with gifts or compliments might not be as effective as simply spending quality time with them and creating meaningful experiences.
Exactly, and it highlights the importance of communication and understanding in relationships.
Speaking of understanding, I'd love to get our listeners' perspective on this. What do you think are the most important qualities in a romantic partner, regardless of age?
Yeah, hit us up on social media and let us know what you think.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. But for now, let's wrap things up. We've been talking about this advice piece for older men interested in dating younger women.
Yeah, a lot of interesting points in there, for sure. And it sparked some great conversation about societal expectations, the nature of attraction, and all the complexities that come with dating, especially when there's an age gap.
It's a reminder that dating isn't just about following some set of rules or tricks. It's about being authentic, understanding yourself and what you want, and connecting with someone on a genuine level.
And that takes work. No matter how old you are or who you're dating, it's about communication, respect, and a willingness to be open and vulnerable.
And let's be real, it's also about having some fun along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So whether or not you agree with everything the source had to say, hopefully it's giving you some food for thought.
Yeah, maybe even challenge some of your assumptions.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, relationships are all about connection. Finding someone who gets you, who makes you laugh, who brings out the best in you.
And who you can be yourself around.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we appreciate you listening.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep diving deep